Welcome, we are Kritfayle. I am Ghost, I'm joined with Emily and Battlelords of the 23rd century.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
So for
Thanks for
those who
having me.
don't know it, how would you describe Battlelords?
Dave, you want to take this
Ro-
one?
Sure. Role playing in a dark and dangerous future. If you like your nice, gritty, dystopian kind of a future setting, we've got you covered. It's not a question of if you're going to die or when you're going to die, but how often can you afford to come back? But you know what? The company is always happy to tack on a few extra years to your contract in exchange for making sure you're at least 95% combat effective right now.
Adam
Excellent.
did remind us of that several times during our game.
Yes, the GM when we played.
He was very
Ah.
interested in reminding us of how often he might be able to find ways that we did not live up to the expectations of the mission and therefore can have years added to the contract or pay us less. Or
It
both.
wouldn't be a dark future if your boss wasn't a jerk, So.
That is true. That is true.
And there is no OSHA here to make sure there's a railing here. Nah, it's cheaper to just get another person. Don't worry about it.
So,
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, good. No, you got a question?
I was gonna say you described the tone a little bit. Very dark, very gritty. Were there any sort of influences, do you think, that kind of directly informed that? What kind of stuff does Battlelords come from, I guess?
I describe it as the characters are over-equipped, under-trained corporate mercenaries, expendable corporate mercenaries in a galaxy at war. It was originally written by U.S. Army veteran Larry Sims in the 80s, and a lot of his personal experiences of being a minority in the Army in the 80s were influential in some of the themes, like all your equipment is built by the lowest bidder and it breaks a lot. Things like that. But I know Larry took a lot of inspiration from books like Starship Troopers, which was not a movie at the time, but it was soon afterwards, and things like that.
Yeah, I remember the British assault rifle when it came in. The clip on the magazine didn't hold it, so as soon as you went to full auto, it would fall out. So
the infield,
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good fun, just when you want it.
No, you just really wanted one shot. The semi-automatic.
Yeah.
Boop.
Well, that's
Favorite
what I did
from
with
that.
the character. I put all my points as much as I could into one skill. He's great at that. You want anything else? Talk to people? No, let them do it.
That is
Unlock
true.
a door?
You didn't do that.
Yeah. No. No, in fairness, I did talk to the guy after I killed him. That.
Working on your people skills.
I was.
I guess you got to practice somehow.
It's been around a long time. Like, I've been playing since junior high, which was a decent amount of years ago. Battlelords has been around for a long time, but I didn't hear about it until more recently. But you've had the 30th anniversary in 2020. 2020?
Yeah, we're 33 years old this year. So, yes, it has been around for a very long time. I think first edition came out in 1990. Larry developed it in the late 80s. And it has essentially been published nonstop since that time. There are 7 editions of Classic Battlelords. And then we just released the Savage Worlds version of the setting. But it's popularity has wavered over the years. We're trying to build the fan base back up since we took the helm of the company. But 33 years this year.
But that's impressive to keep it around for so long. What do you think is the lasting appeal that's made it survivable when some games have come and gone and others have been able to stay around?
I think there's probably a couple things. Military sci-fi. There are a lot of sci-fi games, and there's some great ones. But in terms of a purely military sci-fi game, there aren't any really other that I can think of other than Battlelords that fill that niche. There are there are add-ons for like Traveler and things that you can use to make the military sci-fi, but that's not how it was originally conceived. I think that combined with the over-the-top nature of the game in some respects and the dark humor just lend itself to a fun game. We tell everybody, when you're playing Battlelords, expect things to go comedically wrong, and what's fun is the characters triumphing in the face of their own incompetence and the absurdity of the situation.
Well, incompetence we definitely had.
I was trying to think of the thing that went the most wrong. I would say perhaps the entire party gathered around one last enemy who was down on the ground, on fire, and being shot at by everyone, and yet he would not die.
That was the armor. Too much armor.
He had a lot of armor. He can't, he's surrounded, he's on fire, and he was still fine.
That's why you need a negotiator in the group. It's like, listen, let's call it a draw.
All right, look, I know you're on fire. I know we've shot you a lot, but really at this point, maybe we just cut our losses.
Yeah, in fairness, I think there was COVID involved in that particular session as well.
I had the flu or something.
Flu, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that point I usually tell the players that the one remaining opponent has a suicide bomb, which he's just activated.
Oh.
And then that usually cuts down on the number of players as well.
Right. I have a feeling
would.
his team left. I think they just got, we're done. We'll leave him. First officer promotes himself to captain, leaves the captain there. When I was looking through it, I could see that there's a lot of ways to play with a lot of options. With so many different options, how do you keep cohesion across the setting?
So I would say part of the reason why it's played so well over the years is because it really does have a lot of replayability. Although it started off as kind of a Starship Troopers feel, really there's a lot of different ways of playing in this space, and we've done Top Secret in the far future, and that can be hilariously entertaining. That also lends itself towards things going horrifically wrong and things still managing somehow to work out some way, albeit with maybe a few wounds and black marks and other things, but still kind of gets there. You can do Ocean's 11's heists, you can do piracy. There's just so many different things you can do that we just really wanted to start highlighting some of the alternatives. You can come up with a lot of different ways of playing this game, and we just wanted to give people chances to think about this in new and different ways.
Yeah, and now there's sort of, I guess, even more ways to play it, because you do have classic Battlelords and Savage Worlds. Would you recommend sort of one system more for... I mean, my understanding, I guess, would be if you like crunch, maybe go for classic. If you want kind of faster pace, go for Savage Worlds. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you're into tactical and crunchy and looking at all of the gear, and there's a lot of, Dave will tell you, there's a lot of synchronicity that can be involved by mixing and matching all the gear and equipment and armor. If you enjoy that kind of thing, classic is the way to go. If you want something that's a little less crunchy and the fast, furious, and fun that Savage Worlds is known for, and a little more over the top than Battlelords already is, that's the one to go for.
Okay.
Is there a benefit in that Savage Worlds was a bit like GURPS? It's a base system, and once someone knows it, it's not a ready-made audience, but in a way, if you've already got Savage Worlds and you play other Savage Worlds, and then you see that Battlelords has come out for it, the worst thing I think a lot of players don't like is when you have to say, you got to learn a new system. They can just pick up Savage Worlds and know they already know it. Was that a part of the decision for going with them for Battlelords, or it just seemed the best option system-wise to move into a different area?
I think it was a little of both. I'm a game mechanics guy, so I love learning a new system. How do they do this? How do they figure that out? How do they do conflict resolution? But I know a lot of people are not like that. So yeah, Savage Worlds definitely has that appeal that really you only have to learn what's different for this particular setting when you pick up Savage Battlelords. But we did pick it. We looked at just about every system that was available at the time that was open source, and now, ironically, there are a lot more than there were just a year ago. We won't go into that, but yeah, I thought Savage Worlds was really the best fit for modeling what we wanted to do at the time.
Very cool.
I think also too, it was enough different from our rule set. So it was like, if you want to roll more of a straight up percent or D20 kind of approach, it's still kind of that kind of a probability space versus Savage Worlds with what they call exploding dice. You get a different kind of a feel to the game that really lends it to that over the top kind of a thing where just crazy things can happen if you just get lucky enough.
Because I mean, our group is a bit of both. We have a couple of guys that love rules, and they will spend ages going through it. So they had tons of fun going through the Battlelords classic book that we had, learning all the grit, and they were debating, should we do the bullet drop rules and the wind rules? And the other half of the group is very story based. And I think it was good. We were able to make it work. Like, no one walked away going, nah, that wasn't fun. We were able to find, which I think is a good thing of a system. If you can get us at the end of the day, if you've got those two almost diametrically different approaches in the game, that they can come to it and go, that was still totally fun. So I was impressed with what was there when we did it.
Yeah, we've leaned into that a bit as well because we've put out some quick start rules that we encourage people to start with because it's got the real basic stuff. And that encourages more of a fun, fast, furious kind of mindset. And then just tell people, layer in what you want to get to the main rules. And then if you're really having a lot of fun with that, okay, then start pulling out the extra crunch rules.
Right.
And when we run games at conventions, we start with the quick start rules. And then very quickly we start dropping in the crit tables because the crit tables just kind of dark humoured fun. Oh, look, he's missing his spine.
Yes. I do think that's what makes it sort of have a wide appeal because if you like the crunch, you can add in more. If you want it a little lighter, you can keep it a little lighter. So it is really good in that way. Now we haven't yet mentioned, but you do have a Kickstarter. So can you tell us a little bit about that since it is going on right now?
We do. We are kickstarting Uncle Ernie's ARM Summer Catalog. For those who aren't familiar with Ernie, he is a nihilistic mad genius in the Battlelords universe, and his organization, ARM, the Anarchist Rebellion Movement, creates these bioengineered and cybernetically augmented killing machines that Ernie sells for fun and profit, mostly fun, but he will sell them to you if you want them. And so we have a whole catalog of these monsters that you can throw into your Battlelords game for to surprise your unsuspecting players.
Yes, we met some. Well, not from the Kickstarter one, but we did meet some
not
of his
those yet.
creations.
And it's great for me because I have an Uncle Ernie. So yeah, when we ran into things in game and what was it? We found a note that specifically said these things were anyway, I was like, oh, all right. Great. Now there are a big variety of different creatures in this catalog. I know it might be hard to pick, but do you have a favorite?
Oh, I know Dave has a favorite.
I have a favorite.
Okay.
I do.
Can you tell us about your favorite?
Yes, my favorite is called the Wraith Cat, and in appearance, 99% of the time, people look at it and go, "Ooh, it looks like a nice cuddly little ferret kind of a thing. I want one as a pet." It's a big mistake, but that's where people go, and that's the beauty of it. It's a big mistake. It's a trap. People go for it and go, "Oh, it's so nice and cute." What they don't realize is it's got claws and it likes to use them. It's kind of like a ferret combined with, honey badger. And and by the way, claws can go through armor because it can phase through that. So that armor you're wearing, it's kind of optional.
Excellent, cute and deadly.
And then for those who are familiar with Australia's rainforests in Queensland, there's the Gimpy Gimpy plant. If you're familiar with the Gimpy Gimpy, it is one it makes poison ivy look like, well, nothing really. It's got hollow silica-tipped hairs full of a neurotoxin that makes you scream in agony for up to months as it releases its toxin. And this MD Wraith Cat has those all over its tail, just for funsies.
Just for fun, I see.
I'll just rub up against you and
very cool.
Tony, do you have one? Or do you want to just pick one at random? Maybe we can go with the classic if you can't come up with anything
it could
else.
just be anyone that jumps out at you.
A favorite one. Wow, I like them all. The Creeping Death always sticks out just because of the irony of its name. It's basically a cybernetically augmented corpse
Right.
that Ernie releases in major urban areas, and it lumbers around like a zombie. And it's filled with chemical and biological toxins, which eventually it releases when it can no longer function in hand-to-hand combat. But I just think it's funny because one of its special abilities is that even though it lumbers around slowly like a corpse, without warning, it can burst forward at like 50, 60 miles an hour for short distances. And it was originally just called Death. And Dave was like, "Oh, we should totally call it Creeping Death." And I was like, "But it's not slow at all, Dave." He's like, "I know."
That's the point.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a creeping death. It'll get here eventually. I'm just gonna walk that way.
Yeah.
Get it up.
Then
So what's
okay.
sorry, yeah.
I was just say that the book has stats for both classic Battlelords and Savage Worlds, and we have rules in there for adapting all of the creatures into any Savage Worlds game. It doesn't have to be just the Savage Battlelords setting. So we hope a lot of people will find use out of it.
Yeah. That is a really cool aspect of it. Do you think that will make it appeal to people who might not even have played Battlelords before, as long as they have Savage Worlds games, maybe looking for something in a sort of similar setting, I guess?
We're hoping. As far as I could find, there aren't a lot of monster books for Savage Worlds, so
Okay.
we were hoping that would appeal to people. So we're fingers crossed. We're hoping.
Excellent.
Is the physical book going to be soft cover, hard cover?
We do everything hardcover. We're shooting for about 144 pages.
Okay.
All our books are heavyweight gloss paper. If you've ever held 7th edition Battlelords in your hands, it's about 540 pages. It also doubles as a bludgeoning weapon just because of the weight of the paper in the cover.
You
D4
should add
damage.
stats for it into the book.
I missed the trick when we put out the expanded book for weapons, armor, and equipment. It was supposed to go in there, and it didn't make it in. Like a
Oh,
shame.
oh no.
Are you doing any reward, like stretch goals and the like, or?
We have currently 2 stretch goals, and if we blow past those, we'll add more. But right now, they are battle maps.
Okay.
We have a asteroid-based battle map and I'm trying to think what I would call it. It's a space station. What word am I looking for, Dave? Like the
Spaceport?
yes, the spaceport area of the space station. There's a name for it, but it's went in one ear and out the other. But because Savage Battlelords and Savage Worlds in general use maps quite a bit, we thought those would be appealing stretch goals.
Yeah, it has a little bit of a promenade and a bit of a docking area. I figured.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the maps could be used for other games as well, because obviously there's games like Starfinder, which uses things like spaceports and promenades and all the like.
Yep, anything that where they can use a grid-based map, it will certainly function for that. If we get enough of them, eventually what we're going to do is have it so that they'll all fit together into one giant spaceport. With each additional Kickstarter we do, the plan is to release another one, and then eventually you can stick them all together and have a huge map to run your game.
Perfect.
That's a good way to do it. A lot of computer games work by doing that. So I think that's a good idea. Builds up a region of space too. And a lot of the games, although you did travel around, it also seemed to be a bit of building around a certain sector of space. So being able to learn more about one area and expand it out, I think it's a good thing for a story to do and a good thing for players. You can use recurring characters.
Yeah, the universe is a big place. If you're running across the opposite side, you're probably not going to run into the same people. It can be done, but it's a lot more work for the GM.
And to quote Douglas Adams, yeah, you may think it's a long way to the chemist, but
That's just
Mm-hmm.
peanuts compared to space.
That's right.
exactly.
Well, not exactly on the topic of computer games, I guess, but a lot of RPGs now are being added onto virtual tabletops. Do you have any plans for Battlelords to join any virtual tabletops? We know Alchemy is one that's kind of big lately that we've been looking at that is getting a lot of games to jump on board. Have you taken a look at any of those?
We are working with a Roll20 developer right now to
Okay.
do a Savage Battlelords version. There's a lot more interest in them working on Savage Battlelords because a lot of these developers have already done Savage Worlds for these
Okay.
virtual tabletop systems. So really, anything that we do for Savage Battlelords is just a plugin. So it's less work than going from scratch and getting classic Battlelords in there. We have had discussions with developers for other platforms, but they just haven't gained traction for one reason or another.
For sure. Excellent. Well, that is very cool.
It has a bit of an old school role playing feel to it. When I first saw it, I thought of like Traveller. It's not Traveller, but it had that sort of old school role playing feel about it. Is it difficult to keep that old school role playing, which is very appealing to some, but also appeal to a more modern, different role playing audience?
It is. That's one of the reasons we developed the Battlelord setting for Savage Worlds, because as we got more and more into the game and talking with our fans, yeah, we found that a lot of that doesn't appeal to a lot of people, just due to experience or time constraints or whatever it may be. So that was one of the reasons we pursued the Savage Worlds version of the game. But if you, like I said, if you like crunchy and tactical and dig it into stuff, the classic edition is definitely written so that it rewards the players who dig into it. There's a lot of stuff to be found.
We had the what we called the Stranger Things table. We had a bunch of middle school to high school aged kids all having a blast, tearing apart their scenario and just having a hoot, just enjoying it. So
That's
it just depends.
awesome.
And another tie back to Traveller. Traveller and Battlelords are the only two games that I'm aware of where you can die during character generation. So I think we took that out in the 7th edition, but
Yeah. It's no longer in there, but in the prior editions, the guy was just throwing up tables. It was
When
an
you
option.
roll on the tables, you could just die.
Mhm.
yes, yeah.
I remember that being one of the most fun things about character creation, just kind of looking at all the different options, not even just the ones that I or anyone else rolled, but just being like, oh, you could have got this, and that would have been an interesting one.
You could have picked up
Yeah.
Colorophobia. Oh, look,
Yeah.
there's insane
I
clowns coming
remember
after
that
you.
one. Yes. Oh.
Apparently, more widespread problem in the future than we anticipated.
Yes.
Well,
Isn't
maybe
it
Uncle
always?
Ernie's making some monster clowns to terrorize
Ooh,
everyone.
Write that
taking a
down,
note on
Dave.
that one.
Yeah.
Write that down. Yes, take a note of that, Kif. Yeah, and remember, who loves you?
Uncle Ernie.
Uncle Ernie.
I didn't love
Spoiler,
you
he
back.
doesn't really. No.
No.
Didn't think so. I was getting that
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he
Not-
just
Wasn't
does
feeling
love
the
with
love.
monsters and fangs.
What creatures did we have to deal with in
Rats.
ours? They were rats? Okay.
They were big, angry Wolverine rats.
Didn't they have acid or something?
Yeah, and lots of anger.
that really hasn't
Some
changed.
unresolved issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Were you
had
saying they
lots
were
of
rodents of
unresolved
unusual
issues.
size?
Yeah,
they
basically,
were.
they definitely were. But I took a sniper, so I had a reason always to go. Like when people, what? Where are you? Oh, I'm at the back. I'm good. I got you covered. Just
But did
you open
though?
the door. It's okay. I got you covered. You open the door. Poor Blobby.
Yeah. And something really cool about the catalog for the Kickstarter is that it's all illustrated. Um, how how hard was it getting all the art done? Was there a lot of going back, no, 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 I want this to look more terrifying, more teeth? Or was it just really, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's exactly what we want.
I pick most of our artists because I know from looking at their previous works, they can do what we want them to do.
Okay.
I can pretty much guarantee we give our artists a lot more free reign than just about everybody else because I hire them because they're good at what they do.
That's
So
awesome.
there was very little tweaking here and there, like changes a little thing, but usually when we get something back from the artists, we're like, this is great, we love it. So yeah,
We've had some where they come back with something we're like, that's not at all what we pictured, but we like it, so we're going to take
Yes.
that instead. We'll change the
But
description a
it's
little bit. There we
better.
go. It's better.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
the main ones we have trouble with are the ones where the concept of the critter or the creation is just really hard to capture in an
Mm,
image. That's real, and it's not so much that we're being trying to get it to look like a specific thing. It's just got to have that right feel. We don't know
yeah.
exactly how to describe it, and then that's where we get into trouble. The blobs are like the example. Like, how do you make a blob look interesting and like a
True.
playable species, and not like a piece of art?
Yes.
Right, and it's just a sculpture. No, 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 it's not a sculpture. He can do things.
Yes.
So that's there's certain things like that that just get really hard, and we've been fortunate to find people that can do those things. We have one in the book called the Coriculus. We call them murder wabbits, and they were a failed attempt at creating a species called the Fot, which are basically a mix of
Yep.
human genes, rabbit genes, and a few other
Yes.
things. They can occasionally develop antlers and kind of look more like a jackalope, but we don't talk about that because it's it's just something that happens in families from time to time, and it's shameful we don't talk about that. Anyway, murder rabbits were a failed attempt at creating them, and so they've got this interesting cross between looking so sweet and innocent like the MD Wraith cat, but then jumping out at you,
Ah.
and the
and that's
claws and
hard.
teeth and spines and fangs all come out when they have like cute mode and kill mode.
Have you ever seen Galaxy Quest? Haven't you ever watched the movie? Any second now, they're going to come out and they're going to tear them apart. They're going to all turn vicious. What? Rah, see, I told you. I told you.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
all the art looks very cool. I think it really helps to kind of build the universe, to help set the tone. It's definitely a really cool part. Would you say you find art really important to have in the books to really help do that, to let people know sort of what to expect from tone?
I would
Yeah,
say
and
we really pride ourselves on the art. One of the things we've always wanted with our books is that somebody could lay it out on their table as a coffee table book, and people go, "Oh, this is really cool. I like this. That's kind of scary and creeping." And I'm going to move past those pages. Oh, this is kind of neat. How big is that?
Yeah.
we put and we're a small company, so we don't print a lot of them. But in most of our projects, the art budget is the biggest single expense we have in
Okay.
development. And ever since we did seventh edition, it's something like Dave said that we pride ourselves on in terms of production value. We want the best art we can get and the coolest layout. And the Uncle Ernie's is a perfect example. The whole book is designed to sort of look like a futuristic version of a Sears catalog if it sold organic killing machines.
Yes.
The art reminded me a bit. I only have one of the books now, but there was a series when I was a kid that came out, and there was like Space Wreck and Space Liners, and I think it was like Spacecraft 2400 sort of thing, and it was an entire setting.
Stuart Crowley.
Yes, created
Yes.
by
Yeah.
just he bought the rights to art, and then went, okay, like Space Wreck. Here's a dead skeleton, like in a spacesuit with a crack thing. He wrote a story about what this wreck was. There was an art piece of a black hole with a ship trapped in it. He wrote, and it became a whole setting, and each one was like that. When I was flicking through the art, some of the the ships and some of the shots there sort of reminded me of that sort of style and that sort of period of sci-fi storytelling.
I have the first edition of a few, not all of them, but a few of those books. next to my role-playing game collection. So yes, and they were probably one of the most influential things when I was a kid that got me into sci-fi. A friend of mine had them, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." So certainly one of my influences as well. And when we were talking about doing Battlelords, doing the new editions, I wanted to have a bunch of pieces like that in the art or in the book rather. And the marketing guy we were working with kind of shooed me away from that. He's like, people relate to characters, not spacescapes. I was like, but the spacescapes are cool. And like I said,
Yeah.
they kind of set the tone and set the mood. But he
Yeah.
was like, the players will relate more to people. You put people in the pictures. It's like, all right, fine.
I think you need both. You want to relate
Yeah, I
to the
think, yeah.
characters, but you want to set the setting as well. So
Because I think that's what those particular books did so well. There was definitely a few very important character stuff that he created and did, but there was it was the wonder because it did, depending on the book too. It did such a good thing of space is big, space is really cool. There was these amazingly beautiful shots, and then it was like, but it's also really fucking scary. And they'd have those ones from Space Wreck where it's like, yeah, if you puncture your hull, you're dead. If you screw this up, you're dead. If you have a space puncture, you're not going to be able to sit there and wait for the tow truck to come along and get you. Space is big, you're dead. And I think that that mix is really important and cool to have. And I was impressed by some of the space art in the core book because it did feel very much like, yeah, this is cool because I find, and I was impressed with the amount of art even for just general things, because one thing I have a constant complaint with certain RPGs is it will tell you something like Star Wars. A lot of the Star Wars books have a lot of new gear. They do not always give you images for them. And if it's based on something, yes, you can go online and go, is this real? Oh, yeah, okay, it is real. There it is. But that art isn't in the book. Players ask, what does it look like? Here's your speeder. What does it look like? It looks like a speeder. No. What does the gun look like? Does it look cool or does it look stupid? If it looks stupid, I don't want it. I don't care about the stats. It's got to look cool. And I like that when you go to most of the things, if not all of them in Battlelords, if a player says, what does that gun look like? That one. Okay, cool. Yeah, right, I'll take that. What does the ship look like? It's that one on page 47. It's like, it's all there. It's either art or line draw, but either way, I can show them this is what it looks like. So I think that's a really cool thing that it does do that. It doesn't just go, here's stats or here's a page of stats, but what does any of this stuff look like? I think it's really cool that there's so much of it that you can show the players because that helps to also give them a feeling of the setting, because everything is the design of a gun or a ship or is race based a lot of the time, but it's also, but it gives you that whole idea of what they all work like, what they think like, and yeah, I think that's very important, and a lot of games sort of skimp on that a bit now.
Yeah, we had a little bit of fun with our fully armored book, which covers equipment, weapons, and armor. And the chapter titles, chapter page is full page of art, and it's got somebody from the environment who's decked out in all this kit, and then it's like there's a line here. You want this? This is from Bear Armor Systems. It's a such and such system. It costs this much, and they're carrying a weapon that is this thing, and you can get that from Balsham, and you've got these drones which come from this, and so it just kind of lays all that out. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It always reminds me of if you've ever played Feng Shui, you pick out your handgun based on how cool looking the silhouette is, which I thought was fun. But I probably know why they don't. With Star Wars, I'm not sure they have an excuse because they could probably just use pictures of the props and things. But with a lot of games, what we found out was the most expensive things to have illustrated were the gear. And we didn't know this going in, but most of the people who draw guns these days are computer graphic artists for video games. And so they render them in 3D and then they'll flatten the image, but they charge you because they have to create each one. It's not like an illustration. They'll charge you for each gun in the picture.
Right.
So it gets very expensive very quickly.
Uh-huh.
Unlike, say, a traditional artist where we just needed, like, I need somebody in armor, standing on top of this mountain looking majestic. They're like, oh, yeah, sure, I can draw that. And you get charged for the piece as opposed to each gun in the piece.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, art is probably our single biggest thing. We don't do a lot because obviously we're doing actual plays, but we try to get some where we can, just of our characters and stuff like that. And it is definitely an expense. So I can certainly appreciate how hard it would be to be doing a 500-page core book and going, well, yeah, let's have a piece of art quite regularly, because that was the first thing that I was surprised with when I was going through it, was the amount of art that book has. Like, if I sort of think, there might be one every 15 pages. Sort of, no, it's a lot more common than that.
Compared to a lot of books, there's a much higher sort of percentage of the book that is dedicated to art, which is very cool.
And it's the core rulebook is still less art than we had originally planned on putting in. We just had space restrictions and restrictions on the amount of stuff we could get in there. But we were originally shooting for a piece of art every 5 pages.
Okay.
But we got close. We didn't.
Yeah, and then we also had to cut a bunch of rules and things too. We were like, yeah, we've got to get it down to this limit or it's not going to be shippable. We have to get it below 20 pounds. It's just not going to work.
It's already a bludgeoning weapon. We don't need it to be.
We need to be an agile bludgeoning weapon. If you make it 20 pounds, it's really hard to use more than one attack per, every few seconds. You have to recover.
Too heavy to
With
swing
5
it
pounds, it's about right.
It does weigh 5.5 pounds. Actually.
It does.
That's all right. 1,000-pound heavy artillery edition. It can come. It can come.
Right.
It'll sell.
The shipping will be the trick.
We've jokingly talked about making the Hackmaster equivalent.
Yeah.
Like, you think it's crunchy now. No.
Yeah, everybody told us we were nuts when we did that. We told them we wanted all the rules in one book, everything you needed to play across the board in one book. And the guys at Modifius were like, you guys are nuts. And we had some other people tell us we were nuts, but we're like, listen, there's 3 ways to do things. There's the right way, the wrong way, and the Battlelords way. So you can guess which way we're doing it.
But I think that's good for customers, and I think long term that can certainly help, because it'll hopefully bring customers back when they realize that they pay for a product, but the product was extremely fair. That helps with return sales on the next products and that, rather than some of the earlier things that happened in this year that has led to other licenses becoming available for rule systems and the like.
For the Savage Worlds version, we did take the core rulebook and basically section it into 3 pieces. So that way, if you just need the player information, you can get that. If you want just the setting information, you can get that. And then if you want extras of everything else, that's it's in the Carnage Companion. So we did make it a little more accessible for the Savage Worlds version.
Do you think that the digital age has helped or been a bit of a hindrance for role-playing games?
Well, I think more people are playing than ever before. I know, my perspective is that, I started in 1990 with a different game. It was a Supers game for a different company I had, but back then it was hard getting the game on the market. Now with print on demand and Kickstarter and crowdfunding and backer kit, it is so much easier if you've got an idea or a concept to get that out there. And I tell people, I'm like, if you got an idea and you can put it together, go for it. I have conversations on Twitter all the time with people who like, I need to know how to run a Kickstarter. I'm like, all right, I'll tell you how we do it, and go make it happen. So I think it's certainly easier to get your game out there, to get people aware of your game, get people playing it. like I said, there's more people playing than ever before. The only downside to the digital age would be that because there's so many games out there, it's hard to get any market share unless you're D&D and they've got 95%. But for the rest of us, we're squabbling over that last 5%, which is one of my pet peeves when people tell me, "Oh, I've only ever played one game." I don't. I only want to play that one, and I'm like, why?
There's so many
There's
other
so
ones to
many.
try.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're all fantastic. Give them a try. Try a different game.
I think that's been the thing that one of our most common compliments has been, you guys don't play D&D, and we're like, no, very rarely. We play everything else because they're all different and they're all interesting. And I'm a huge fan of Alien, and that's very different to Battlelords, and Battlelords is very different to Alien. And it's not just like, oh, it's science fiction. It's like, yeah, but it's all different. And there's a whole bunch of fantasy ones now, and fantasy horror, and high fantasy, and low fantasy, and science fiction fantasy, and all that weird drug-induced 1970s, 60s fantasy science fiction novel era. You can sort of find that craziness now in games today. And yeah, I know people that are just like, I know people at stores that has a wall full of other games that when they say, what did you buy? And, I'd say Twilight 2000 or Transformers or whatever, and they'd be like, there's a game other than D&D. And it's like, what do you think this wall is? At the store. Have you never looked at it? That's all role-playing games that are not D&D. But
I was a little peeved the last time I went into Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I got to see the role-playing game section. It wasn't labeled role-playing games. It was labeled Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like,
dear.
oh, there's the whole
It's
swath
becoming the Kleenex of role-playing games.
Yes, they'll be genericized.
Which is great as the gateway, but yeah, is there not so much a trick, but is there a way to sort of have D&D as that entry way, but then to be able to get people to look more at those other options? Is it the local game shops promoting more, or is it stuff that the publishers have to do?
I think it's really finding out what media or genre appeals to those people, and then going, listen, I guarantee you there's a role-playing game out there for that genre, whatever it is. Somebody's got one, and you would be amazed at how specific some of them get. But I like D&D. I grew up playing D&D, but I'm a sci-fi guy. And when somebody said, hey, look at this thing, it's called Cyberpunk, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is, one of the, I didn't know they had sci-fi role-playing games. And they're like, there's this one called Star Frontier. I'm dating myself, but back then we probably only had 5 games, but there were these other options.
And I can name most of them. I might own most of them.
Whatever genre you're into, whether it's books, movies, TV, there is a game out there that probably mimics that genre or even uses that intellectual property as the setting. I mean, go for it.
Yeah, I think I went from D&D to Shadowrun first ed when it came out.
D&D.
And Shadowrun.
Go ahead. Sorry.
They did novels. That was one of the, I think D&D probably already had some. I can't remember. I don't know when their first ones came out, but it wasn't much after the book for Shadowrun came out that they dropped their first actual novel. Is there a Battlelords novel?
There is. So when we took over the brand in 2017 from the company who had it, SSDC, we have the sole rights to the setting for game purposes, anything gaming related. But they already had somebody writing Battlelords novel, and so they kept those rights separate. He's still out there writing novels. So there are Battlelords novels. We're not writing any of them, so they're probably based more on the prior editions of the game, but they do have them. I'm convinced that the guys who did Shadowrun and BattleTech, because now they're the same guys, the guys who run those games also write the novels. I'm convinced they all just wanted to be novelists, and and the games were just an excuse. So like, oh, well, now I'll write a novel about my role playing game or my board game.
Because I know that helped with Shadowrun with people I knew that were sort of playing D&D, but I gave them the novel. They read the novel and they said, "Can we play Shadowrun?" So yeah, I didn't know if there was Battlelords ones, because they're also a good pool of ideas for adventures and characters and stuff.
We try and write some short fiction into most of the books we do. If you pick up our one shot scenario book, Charlie Foxtrot, which has a bunch of scenarios in it, between each scenario is a short fiction piece that kind of sets the stage for that mission.
I think Adam has Charlie Foxtrot. That's what we were working from, wasn't it?
I think he does. I don't know, because he said he's GMing it, so we can't read it because he's
That's
going to run it. So
But I think
didn't.
it's Charlie Foxtrot he has. Yeah.
I think so too.
Hmm. Yeah, we were. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
When we were looking at rebooting Battlelords in 2017, we actually talked with the Catalyst guys who do Shadowrun and BattleTech, and we were in negotiations to have them publish Battlelords because they said this fills a great niche between character focused Shadowrun and the high technology of BattleTech.
Right.
And it was right at that point they hit huge with their BattleTech Kickstarter, and they were like, "We're going to be too busy for a while to deal with
too much going on. Sorry."
Yeah. I think it was the second or third biggest Kickstarter of all time, certainly in the gaming industry.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah.
It was big. It was about Exploding Kittens big or slightly bigger. I can't remember which. It was that big, which they had some funny stories from that one too. At one point when that one was going big, the guys who did that one started putting in stupid things just because whatever. And then, then they had something with Will Wheaton. I forget exactly what it was, but they just had this, if you get to this next level, then we'll, do this thing with Will Wheaton or whatever. And if you can get Will Wheaton to tweet our game, then we will do this thing. And his account just got flooded with all kinds of stuff. And the guy said, I have no idea how, but within 4 hours, he received a call saying, "Stop it. This is not cool." They're like, "Ooh,
Stop
sorry."
having people tweet me.
Yeah.
I got to be able to do things with my life here. This has become way too much. Yes, take it off.
Too much about exploding kittens.
Yeah, they had so much money in that Kickstarter. They said that when they found out that their books were getting banned from Russia. Apparently, at the time, you could not import games into Russia because they sort of viewed them as outside propaganda. But they had backers in Russia, and they're like, "We just made tens of millions of dollars, and we're getting these to our backers." And they just hired a guy in Germany to truck them over and go door to door delivering Exploding Kittens to their backers.
And that did also won that was before the Kickstarter, but they won a very long ongoing court case over some of the designs in BattleTech. So there was a lot of focus when that happened back on BattleTech as well when they won that. So yeah, BattleTech definitely had a bit of a resurgence. So that was, as an old player from BattleTech, it was nice to see that it not just survived but was able to thrive.
Yeah, we still play it around here. It's one of our favorites.
That's awesome.
Yep. So with adventures and the scope of Battlelords, you can do the Space War, mercenaries, you can do merchants, etc. if you really want to. How hard is it to write adventures for Battlelords?
We get all kinds of really fun ideas all the time. Yeah. Ooh, that's going to be kind of fun.
It's I don't think it's hard because, again, the open nature of the setting, you can do whatever. We kind of narrow it down to mercenaries, pirates, soldiers, and spies.
Okay.
Just so we can give some people focus. Like, if you don't know where to start, pick one of these 4. But we've had people play as rock stars or bounty hunters, or you're going to be the sheriffs at this new colony, and you can do whatever you want. So really it comes down to us having the time to get them on paper and then play testing them to make sure they're balanced. But you typically coming up with the ideas is not hard. Fine tuning them to make sure they're fun and playable is a lot more difficult.
And do you have a favorite scenario?
Oh, gosh, both of these are in Charlie Foxtrot, so spoilers here.
Okay.
But oh gosh, Tony, which one should we pick? I mean,
Well, Kurt the Vikings is always going to be Train to Hades. Is his favorite.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most entertaining one, really. You want to go for it, Tony?
Yeah, you're essentially hired. You're mercenaries, but you're criminal mercenaries, and you're hired to do a jailbreak on planet Hades. And you have to get the prisoners off of the train, off of the jail train, before it reaches the jail, which is in a lake of acid. And the atmosphere on planet Hades is also highly corrosive. So while you're doing the jailbreak from the train, you have to be careful not to dissolve, because that is a problem when you're out in the atmosphere. But it has a very high TPK failure rate. Pardon the pun, but it's very easy for things to go off the rails when you're on Train to Hades. But it's got some great antagonists who are so over the top. They're monologuing and making demands of the players, and there's kind of a surprise in the middle. But it's very it's a very fun scenario. Probably one of the more popular ones we run at the convention.
Cool.
Yeah, it's the one that goes Leroy Jenkins, and you don't see it coming, and it's too late once you figure it out.
If you haven't all already dissolved by that point.
Correct. Yeah. The first time I ran it at Gen Con, it was a total party kill, and the entire team laughed because it came down to like there was some things going on, and basically it came down to the last two players standing off against each other for something. One of them flubbed a roll, critical fail, getting picked up by the shuttle, got sucked into the jet engine. The jet engine for this shuttle goes down, and the whole thing just.
Oh no.
And if you can't get off the train on the shuttle, you got a one-way ticket into the lake of acid, because
you can do it once.
Or you can lock yourself in the train and then you have a one-way ticket to the prison. But either way, it's going to be unpleasant if you don't succeed. But it's definitely a high-stakes mission.
That's not the one we did.
No. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll have to ask Adam to prioritize that one.
It is a hoot. The other fun one is the Last Stand kind of a setup. The players are on a planet. They've been tasked with defending a city. The city's about to get overrun, and then in the middle of the battle, they get reprioritized to help two special agents, Johnson & Johnson, not related, different species. And they have to get them back to a hospital for reasons and do stuff for reasons to help them so that they can do stuff for reasons that is good for the Alliance. And at the end of the day, they're protecting this hospital full of all kinds of civilians who have evacuated to this point and are stuck now, surrounded by all these things running around, including some kaiju-sized critters that are just trying to tear the whole city apart for reasons. And they are, watching as things are closing in, and the players are busy trying to hold everything all off. And some critical decisions need to get made. And let's just say life's full of tough choices. It's also hilarious.
And that was one of the fun things about Charlie Foxtrot is you were asking about how we write missions for scenarios for Battlelords. Each scenario in that book is for a different occupation within Battlelords: mercenaries, soldiers, pirates, spies, and each scenario is at a different power level. So in the one Dave just described, you're in mechanized battle armor. You're geared out and loaded for bear. Trained to Hades, you're in a lot lighter armor, and some of them you're just running around in body armor with rifles. So you get if you run through all the missions in Charlie Foxtrot, you get a feel for what are the different power levels in the game and what are the different occupations like in the game. Because that's one of the neat things about Battlelords is you don't necessarily have to start with body armor and sharp pointy stick and work your way up to ultra armor. If you want to go in as a Galactic Armed Forces assault marine in mechanized battle armor or in a mecha ultra armor, you can do that. It's not necessarily an equipment progression. It's a skill progression for your players or their characters rather.
Is there sniper rifles for the mechs?
Yeah, there's one called the Lance, which is a dedicated
Good.
fire support.
Now
Arkiak
you're
will
on
be happy
board.
then.
Now
Yeah.
you're on board.
And then you also have the missile launching one.
The
So
tarantula.
think multiple rocket launcher system kind of a thing with an incredible number of missiles of varying sizes. So you can decide if you want to take out a more of a personnel size to small or lightly armored vehicles, all the way up to your mecha and main battle tanks. So it just kind of depends. There's also space, not really a spacecraft technically. It's a transit cruiser. It's really designed for moving around within a system more so than anything else. There's also kind of a missile gunboat kind of a thing where it can zip in at really high speeds, fire off a bunch of missiles, and then zip out at really high speeds, trying to hopefully not get hit by the missiles chasing after it. All kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, my character's a sniper, so he likes everything that's sniper related. So if he gets a mech, he's going to be. Can I have a sniper rifle?
Hey, we've got one for you. You guys are probably like for classic Battlelords, we just released Fully Armored, which is the gear manual. There's a lot of toys in there.
Yeah, you're going to want what's called the Horizon, named because that's what you can reach with this gun. It's a Gauss gun, and it can literally shoot 10 kilometers. And so the biggest problem is making sure you can see your target. That's where you bring in your drones so they can kind of do the course correction for you and kind of go, it's that one. And it's designed to punch through armor. It's firing speeds at hyper velocity kind of a thing. So it's when it gets to the armor, it tends to go right through.
Awesome. Adam, I want something.
So we know obviously there is a Kickstarter right now, so this is what's directly next for Battlelords. But after that, what's next for Battlelords?
Oh, I maintain the list. We publish it in Discord. Hold on. All right. So yeah, we have it pinned in a channel on our Discord.
Excellent.
But I've got the working copy that I keep handy. So once we get done with the Hostile Aliens book, we're looking at what we're calling the Orion's Cookbook, a 48-page PDF that's in development, giving a little more perspective on one of the species called the Orion Rogues, which are, they have different thoughts around morality than typical humans are around now, and they're kind of into doing anything if it's fun and dangerous. We're also looking at a Furball species guide, which are they get along with Orions quite nicely, as do the Fentauri. So the kind of a three together kind of a thing that we're looking at. We've got the Kickstarter VTT. So we're looking at Savage Worlds Roll 20. So that's another thing we've got that we're looking into. After that, looking at potentially a Charlie Foxtrot Savage Worlds edition. We've also got some reprints coming, so that's also coming up. Conventions Gen Con 24 is coming, and actually we've got some guys that are going to be running around. There's a convention in the UK. I'm drawing a blank on it, but it's coming up in December. So there'll be a couple guys out there hawking our wares, as they say.
Excellent.
Well, it's good that there's a lot. Certainly much better than when it's like, what do you got next? Oh.
We always have a long list, and we're always being asked, what about this? What about this? Yeah, it's on the list. It's a little lower. So one of the things that keeps getting pushed down on the list is I've got systems for building all these weapons. It's not quite so simple, but for those who are older than Dirt, and Dirt was really cool when it came along. It got easier to grow food, so I'm a big fan.
Yep.
Travelers had an augmentation called Striker, which had design sequences for vehicles and equipment and weapons. And so in that kind of mindset of I want kind of a process which would let me build insert weapon type here, I did that for the weapons so that we could expand out things and have a little more variation in the classic worlds. So that's one of the things that keeps going on the list. Same thing for building out starships, because it never had starships before the 7th edition. And we're like, where are the starships? Oh, they're coming.
Yeah.
Where are the starships? Yeah. Oh, they're coming.
I was going to say, is there a starship guide?
We don't have one yet. We talk about actually a vehicle book's another one I've got. So yeah, we want to do these things, but it's kind of like, what do we think makes the most sense with where we are right now? Right. And, what do you think is going to, really take off? And some of these things we've got to prioritize because, people really love the things that support how they envision their characters, right?
Right.
So that tends to move towards the top. And as much as I love spaceships, because that's one of the things I loved out of Travelers, is building all these different spaceships.
Right.
Yeah. For me, I'm like, I'd have it out tomorrow, but I'm kind of an oddball in this. Species guides are also a lot of fun because there's some really cool things we're doing with those. So
Yeah.
We try and have something new for convention season every year, which we have to plan well in advance. So I tell people it takes 4 months for the printer to print and ship something. So we have to have it done at least 4 months before we need it. Which unfortunately requires us to plan these things out years in advance. But we're constantly reshuffling the schedule. So suddenly this has become a priority. Like Dave said, we're going to have to be doing some reprints soon because we've sold out a lot of our books, which is a good problem to have. So they tell me.
Right. Do you have a lot of freelance writers, or is it more in-house?
You're looking at 2 of the 4.
Yeah.
So it's all in-house.
Is it hard juggling? I mean, I do obviously not that sort of amount of work, but I mean, I write for the games we do. I edit. I run games. Juggling that can be exhausting sometimes. Is it hard having to handle all the multiple important things that have to go into making a company successful?
Well, I find 3 pins isn't too bad. Once I get to 4 balls, it's a little trickier, and 5, I can just flash. I can't really keep it going. No, on a serious note, though, yeah, that's the trick. We all have full-time jobs. We all have families. I've got a farm. We do this on top of all that. So yeah, it's
and we're wearing multiple hats. So Dave does writing and editing. I do writing and editing. I help Kurt the Viking with layout. Kurt does layout and writing, and I also do the social media stuff. So yeah, it's Dave's handling distribution right now for Europe. Yeah, it's a handful.
And let's just say distribution in Europe, it's challenging. Figuring out all this VAT stuff, it's new to me. So it's like, I'm used to dealing with customs. That stuff I've had to deal with for my work job. But yeah, this adding the VAT on top of it and figuring out exactly how to get that straight so that it's not wrong. Yeah, I don't want to get that wrong. So yeah,
for sure.
Learning, much learning. So you got to do that too.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Well, we appreciate you guys having us on.
Of course.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
It's
we're
very
always
fun
happy
to talk about.
We're always happy to come and talk your ears off. The problem isn't getting us to talk; it's really to getting us to shut up. So,
Well, we'd be happy to have you back.
Well, thanks. Our Discord is super active, so if anybody has any questions, including you guys, if you have any questions, hop on Discord. One of the 3 of us are on Discord pretty much most of the time, so we're always happy to talk and answer questions that people have.
Yeah, and I would say this is actually one of those nice pluses for how digital things have gotten. In the past, if you wanted to know why did you make it this way, or how would you handle this specific weird little situation, you couldn't write into the guys that did D&D or Travelers. You just didn't know how to get a hold of them. Now, with independent publishers, we've got a Discord. You want to know? This is how we would do it. Not saying you have to do it this way. This is our thought process into why it is this way. And people have come up with rules. They're like, that one's kind of game breaking, but if you want to do it. Just understand, here's what's going to happen. Here's why we have this way. And they go,
we had a guy today who came up. He was like, why didn't you do the mental defense skill like this? And I was like, well, we didn't want to break the game, like Dave said. And he was like, do the math. And I did the math, and I'm putting everything in Excel. And I was like, I'll be damned. I was like, yeah, that is better than the way we did it. So we may be changing that in the next edition.
Yeah, that happens too.
But I will put the links for the Kickstarter, the website, and your Discord will be in the description.
I appreciate it. Yeah, get us links. We'll publish them on our social media as well. And
we appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Have a good night.
Just fade into the background.
Yes, fade.